The Flying Eagle Method. Quit porn addiction permanently. No willpower. Written and narrated by C. Smith. Introduction. Friend, I hope that someday soon the switch flips in your head, as it did mine, and you become a non-user without using willpower. It is a life-changing day when one wakes up and quits an addiction. You will then want to help others wake up. You should read this book straight through. Do not skip ahead. Addict. If you can quit fapping to screens for 2 months, no questions asked, then you might not be an addict. You might not need to read this book. I recommend you do anyway. But if you think you can't quit because of addiction, compulsion, habit, or curious fascination, read on. Trust me, I will lead you out of the hell you are in. This hell can make you feel empty inside. No need for any burning flames. When you finish this short book, you will know if you are an addict, and that a porn addiction, which is simply a button you press to deliver supernormal dopamine hits to your brain, has no advantages, so you can feel happy to quit. Advantages of using porn. This section is blank. Anhedonia. A frequent skydiver can feel anhedonia, which is the inability to experience pleasure in the rest of their life. This is the same for a user of porn or a user of drugs like cocaine, because these are all high dopamine activities. Thus, the pursuit of intense pleasure, hedonism, ironically leads to the loss of it, anhedonia. Your brain is desensitized to the natural highs of life. Talking, smiling, learning, working, nature, exercise, etc. don't feel high like they should. It's like your life is in grayscale instead of color, and unfortunately, you might not even realize it. This is why quitting feels amazing after any withdrawals are over. Your brain's dopamine receptors will heal and reverse their desensitization. Boss. If a child hears the sound of an ice cream truck, do they run across the street without looking for oncoming cars? No. Your frontal lobe, the part of your brain that controls logic and reason, calls the shots. It keeps you alive. It can overrule your limbic brain, also called the feeling brain. Every time it makes a decision, it becomes easier, like a habit, until eventually you don't think about it. All your rational brain needs is accurate information, and that is the purpose of this book. Brains. There are 2 main sources of thoughts. The first source is the limbic brain, which most mammals have, and it basically thinks about immediate gratification and minimizing pain over the next 15 seconds. The second source is the frontal lobe, which gives humans logic, reason, and the ability to plan far into the future. With practice, one can physically feel where a thought is coming from. The limbic brain is in the core and is the more ancient and primitive part of the brain. The frontal lobe is right behind the forehead. It feels good when your thoughts are coming from your frontal lobe. The opposite of this is hypofrontality. You're basically a zombie or a lemming, unable to think rationally. I remember raging at things like a toddler, having no self-control. Among the many scary symptoms of this addiction, that was the worst one for me. I can tell you, after 4 months of recovery, my frontal lobe felt tingly for a few days, like it expanded after years of neglect. Brainwashing. The only reason a porn user doesn't quit is because they are brainwashed into thinking they would be giving something up if they quit. This is a lie. There are absolutely no advantages to using porn. Relaxation. It doesn't relax you. It drains your energy. As soon as you finish, you're in the come-down, crashing state, feeling crappy, and you get irritated and impatient with other people. Real relaxation is a feeling of peace and balance, and it restores your energy. When you are truly relaxed and confident, you can look women in the eye and smile pleasantly. Freedom is relaxing. Stress. It doesn't reduce stress, it adds to it. You always are worrying if your secret is safe. You worry about how much more extreme your fetishes will get. Porn can't take away stress from your life. It just makes you less able to deal with it. You have trouble getting work done because your energy and motivation are lost. There are countless other activities you can do if you want a temporary distraction from thinking about problems and need a break. Boredom. It doesn't reduce boredom, it adds to it. You develop a habit of instant gratification for dopamine hits, instead of working slowly toward a small, real goal. The natural highs in life don't excite you and feel boring. Your frontal lobe, which does long-term planning, isn't getting enough exercise, and neither is your imagination. If you do as little as possible, which includes staying off of screens, for a period of time each day, it recharges your brain to sprint and focus later. Embrace doing nothing. Don't let porn suck it away like a black hole. Beauty. It doesn't help you appreciate beauty. After years of looking for new perfect 10s that are just your type online, that thrill will become harder to find, and you'll spend most of your time searching in frustration for something new. The hottest, most surgically enhanced, i.e. fake, women are now just ordinary to you. Fixating on the naked, sexual parts of women dulls your ability to appreciate the beauty of their smile or their eyes lighting up when they talk or laugh. After quitting porn, you will be amazed how beautiful real, everyday women are, even with their clothes on. Release. It doesn't release sexual cravings. It adds them. It stokes the fire instead of letting it burn out. It puts you in a frenzied mindset of, I'm the last man alive and need to repopulate the planet, and women are just objects. After quitting for 4 months, I have never felt calmer, and that is still true after 2 years. The wildfire is no longer raging. Also, sex isn't fulfilling. Intimacy is. Intimacy is actually an emotional need, not just physical, even for men. Porn does not provide intimacy. It keeps you from finding it. Cheese. A mouse doesn't know that cheese inside a wooden rectangle is bait in a trap. Our limbic brain, also called a feeling brain or mammalian brain, is in the center of our head. It thinks pixels in a plastic rectangle are the highest objective in life. It doesn't understand that the pixels aren't real. Our limbic brain fell into the porn trap. But once we see that it is a trap with no benefits, we can escape and never have to fall into the trap again. Choice. Choice is our greatest power in life. Once you realize you have this power, you are like an eagle who grew up thinking he was a chicken, living with other chickens, but one day learned he could fly. That eagle could go back and keep living with the chickens, but he will always know he's not one of them anymore. You don't need blockers or accountability software, although you can choose to use them for your partner. You only need the right mindset, which is understanding that porn has 0 advantages. You can always choose to use porn, but why would you? Cold. If you take a cold shower, which is painful, you can feel good for hours afterward. People can also take this to unhealthy extremes and become addicted to pain. This is because pleasure and pain are processed in the same portion of the brain, and the brain automatically keeps the seesaw in balance. PMO, or porn masturbate orgasm, is the reverse of a cold shower. You feel moody, irritable, and tired for hours afterward, as the seesaw swings down on the other side, like a pendulum. After years of PMO, the brain is constantly pushing down on the pain side of the seesaw to compensate. But feeling lousy all the time is a small price to pay for loving pixels, am I right? Coolidge Effect. A male rat feels satisfied after mating with the same female a few times. Each time he mates with her, less dopamine is released, and he takes longer breaks. This is good, otherwise he'd exhaust himself for no reason. But if he sees a brand new female, a new dopamine surge takes over, and he is compelled to mate again. As more and more new females are introduced, he will eventually collapse from exhaustion. The unlimited number of new people on the internet, which is a supernormal stimulus, overclocks your brain, so you are never able to take a break, and it drains all of your productive energy and motivation. Perhaps this biological mechanism, which most mammals have, was meant to stimulate reproduction after a war, but this time we are waging war against ourselves. When you stop seeking novelty, including porn, substitutes, and imagination, your sexual urges will return to a normal level. Education. Sexual. Most women like slow and gentle genital stimulation, with hands or mouth, and that is after doing foreplay on their non-erogenous zones. And by slow, I mean 20 to 30 minutes for massage, foreplay, arousal, stimulation, and climax, all before any penetration. Tell me how many times you have seen that in a porn video. The answer is probably never. Porn causes sexual autism, the inability to read your partner's verbal cues, eye contact, breathing, and movement, the opposite of intimacy and connection. You're better off finding videos from actual sex ed instructors. Try Tantric Yoni Massage or Sensate Focus. P.S. It feels better to give than receive. Fantasy. You can't be in the moment if you spent the prior day anticipating that moment. That's a quote by yours truly. And Alexander Pope said, "Blessed is he who expects nothing, for he shall never be disappointed." My brain has 2 superpowers. The first power is envisioning all the possible futures in which bad things could happen. The second power is envisioning all the possible futures in which I could have sex with people. Do you also have an active imagination like me? Dopamine is driven by anticipation, and when we spend time and energy anticipating a pleasurable event like sex, or watching a new movie, it tilts the brain's seesaw of pleasure and pain into the up position. Then, when the event happens, it is chemically guaranteed that you won't enjoy it as much, because the seesaw doesn't have much room to go higher. In fact, the brain is trying to pull the seesaw down to rebalance it. My journey of 2 years has been this. Number 1, stop watching porn. Number 2, stop jerking off unless my body is uncomfortable. Number 3, stop anticipating or fantasizing about sex with my wife the days before it happens, or imagining other women. Now I can actually enjoy sex and everything else in my life so much more because my brain's seesaw starts off level. Try this for a few days. Don't expect, anticipate, or fantasize about anything good or bad happening, especially sex. Try to keep your brain's seesaw at a level position so it's ready to receive joy and blessings if and when they happen that day. And if they don't happen, your seesaw doesn't crash downward as hard. It's a win-win. For me, learning why I should stop imagining sex has been life-changing. It lets me truly be in the moment and appreciate real life. Flatline. After quitting porn, you may feel no libido for a long period of time. This is called the flatline. A flatline is normal, and the length depends on how extreme the porn use was and how young you started. Many anecdotal reports are in the range of 1 to 6 months. Mine was 45 days. The flatline means your brain is rebooting, so it will become excited by real women once again. After the flatline is over, physical problems such as erectile dysfunction and delayed ejaculation should improve or even be cured. Some men have been going on a flatline for 2 years and still have complete ED. I feel sorry for those men. This is why all porn users should be pitied and not envied. Food. Porn is actually easy to quit. This is because it provides no advantages. You can completely throw it out from your life. You wouldn't eat a poison in moderation, right? Food, which you need to eat regularly as long as you want to stay alive, takes much more ongoing discipline to avoid the trap of overconsumption. So whether you have learned how to control your weight through diet, fasting, etc., or are still struggling, take heart. Quitting porn is easier. P.S. Porn doesn't help you lose weight. It helps you gain it. All that extra chronic stress in your life generates cortisol, a fat-storing hormone. I lost half an inch of waistline in month 4 without trying. Gambling. Have you ever looked down on gambling addicts? I know I did. Is spending an hour binge searching for just the right new site, video, or person without crossing over the red line into something disturbing that different from playing a slot machine? When hunting for porn, the uncertainty, anticipation, and even fear can cause very intense feelings. Dopamine is highly driven by anticipation, which is why you can search for long periods of time. Now imagine trying to play poker against yourself. Would that be very exciting? It wouldn't be as exciting because you know the cards in both hands. You are not going to bluff or surprise yourself. This is why I think fapping to your own imagination is less harmful. It doesn't have an extreme amount of surprise, novelty, and dopamine. Do I still remember some scenes from porn? Honestly, yes, but they are much less stimulating. It's like an old, burnt cigarette that generates a small amount of dopamine. What has been seen can't be unseen, but it will get blurrier over time and not dwelled upon. Genghis Khan. Even Genghis Khan would blush at the amount of virtual women the internet provides. Too many men today are Genghis Khan. 500 virtual concubines, but can't get it up, or can't finish. What great news for the CEOs of drug companies. Remember when ED pills were only marketed to the elderly? Even if they're wearing swimsuits, constant visual novelty will overclock your brain, and you will develop the same physical and mental problems as other porn users. Give up. You don't give up a poison. That implies some kind of sacrifice. Here is what you are giving up when you quit porn and dopamine addiction. Brain fog, difficulty focusing or learning. Lethargy, fatigue, lack of energy, motivation, and confidence. Erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, which means you can't finish. Social anxiety, inability to look women in the eye and see them as people. Anhedonia, being unable to feel pleasure from the natural highs in life. Irritability, impatience, anxiety, stress, depression. Sexual autism, not being able to connect intimately with a partner. Inability to use your own imagination during sex instead of someone else's. Bizarre fetishes, escalation to disturbing genres. Inconsistent sleep schedule due to binge searching and staring at artificial light. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol, which for some people cause weight gain. Slavery to screens and pixels. Gooner. A gooner is someone who fully embraces porn addiction and edging, which is delaying orgasm. They are more intentional and brag about it, compared to coomers. They have a message board for showing off their goon caves. Gooners don't know where the hedonism road leads to, which is Anhedonia, located at the bottom of a cliff. If you edge for hours a day, your brain turns into a vegetable. You get brain fog, can't write coherently, can't memorize information, and your dick can shrivel up and shrink. Some even report physical problems, such as fatigue, aches, dizziness, and heart problems, because dopamine is essential for physical movement of your body. I have witnessed all those statements from former gooners and gooners who are struggling to quit. Some have started a message board just for gooner recovery. I was practically a gooner myself for a few months. I know how much it messes you up. Please don't become a gooner. Habit. A part of your brain, the basal ganglia, is your autopilot. It does things without you thinking about it, like navigating routes you frequently walk or drive. It frees up the rest of your brain to think about other things. For example, you probably don't have to think consciously about where the trash can is in your kitchen. But if you move the trash can to a new location, then it takes a while for your autopilot to get trained on new habits. It will take time to completely forget about the old location, i.e., the old habit. Similarly, you should expect 3 to 4 months for your autopilot to completely forget about using porn. You may think that is a long time, but it's not. It's barely longer than a season, such as spring or summer. A season will be gone before you know it, and then you will feel and behave like a different person. Be patient with your autopilot, and it will soon be helping you stay on the right track. Hacking. In Soviet Russia, computer hack you. Movies usually show a person hacking a computer. This is a lie. In reality, computers do most of the hacking into our brains. Our mental operating systems are being corrupted by viruses. These mental viruses are named Pornhub, Candy Crush, World of Warcraft, Reddit, etc. They all work by overloading our natural dopamine expectations. The solution is to unplug them. HALTS. This stands for hunger, anger, loneliness, tiredness, and after sex. Be aware of these times, especially in the first 3 months of recovery, because, number 1, you feel extra low during these times, because your brain's seesaw of pleasure and pain is still rebalancing. Number 2, you have habit pathways in your brain that are greased up to seek PMO as your default pick-me-up action. Great news! Both of those physical mechanisms will slowly but surely go away. It is completely normal to feel them. Just be mindful of them and let them pass. I added sex because the post-dopamine crash you feel after sex is a prime time to feel urges. Always remember that sex is essentially a drug. It feels good, but there's a strong come-down period afterward. Sadly, the better anything feels, the stronger the come-down. Incentive. Your urologist wants to write you a prescription for pills because that makes them more money. My urologist didn't even ask me about porn, and his malpractice and greed caused me more years of suffering, low energy and motivation in my whole life, in addition to ED and DE. Thankfully, my erectile problems got fixed after quitting porn for a couple of months, and my mental health is better than ever. Porn sites, internet sites, and cam girls want to make money without limit. Use us in moderation, they laugh, as dollar signs flash in their eyes. Do you think they only want to make money in moderation? The only person with true incentive for your maximum health, not just keeping you on life support to extract endless payments, is you. One of my favorite sayings is, "There's nobody I ever met who can do it for me." Masturbation. For the first 20 months after I stopped watching porn, my simple rule was to never fap to screens, only memory or imagination. It never felt as bad afterward, like porn or screens did. But one day I was completely fed up with jerking off, even though it had been a constant ritual since I was a teenager, before porn and screens. I wanted to quit because I was missing a strong connection with my wife due to another stupid addiction. I also felt like the need to jerk off was controlling me. So far, quitting has been surprisingly easy, and sex with my wife is more vibrant and passionate. She is the only one who touches me, and I get more oxytocin, which is feel-good, love-bonding hormone, from her. I wish I had stopped sooner. It reminds me of a saying about relationships. The grass is greenest where you water it. If you have a logical reason to quit jerking off, it might be a lot easier than you think. Math. There is an old saying about addictions. 1 time is too many, and 1,000 times isn't enough. The point isn't to scare you, it's to educate you. I am truly happiest when I am doing it 0 times, and am in control of my life. Imagine you took a train to your desired destination, and got off at exactly the right station. Watching sexual imagery, even PG-13, and having a dopamine rush take over 1 time, is like missing 1 stop on the train. You feel annoyed, your time and energy feels wasted, and you have 1 stop to backtrack. You know that missing 1,000 stops won't be any better, so you get off the train and turn around. Maturity. If you are younger than 25, I have bad news for you. Your rational brain is probably not finished developing. Car insurance and rental companies know this. The Army knows this. Scientists doing brain scans of the prefrontal cortex have figured it out too. On average, it stops growing at age 25. I did really crazy things during the 13 to 24 age range. Most people do, because their feeling brain is running wild and seeking thrills. However, it is especially important not to do drugs, alcohol, or porn when your brain is still developing. It is more vulnerable and impressionable. Meaning. Sadhu Sundar Singh was once asked, "What is life's most difficult task?" He immediately replied, "To have no burden to carry." If you have meaning in your life, a positive burden to carry, porn and dopamine desensitization will not help you carry it. If you do not yet have meaning in your life, porn and dopamine desensitization will not help you find it. While in some cases depression can cause porn and video game addiction, in most cases, including myself when I was a teenager, it is the opposite. The addictions and dopamine desensitization are causing or worsening the depression. What do you have to lose by trying a free experiment on yourself? When I was playing video games every day, and lusting and jerking off every day, and eating for 12 hours a day, all of which took no effort, I didn't really accomplish anything. Why take on any challenge at all when everything feels so easy? After quitting those addictions, I wrote 2 ebooks, took tennis lessons, took voiceover lessons and did some gig work, created a video series, and read books to my sons and had conversations with them about all kinds of topics. I didn't have the energy for this before, and my experience is not unusual. While one can argue intellectually that everything in life is meaningless, a life without challenge is doubly meaningless. I can look back now and feel a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment that I did not have before. That's why addictions are so bad. They take away all challenge, and without challenge, there can be no feeling of accomplishment, which is a main goal in life. Mellow. After quitting porn, I feel more calm and mellow than I've been in years. For example, seeing a woman smile feels very pleasant, and not just in a sexual way, but in a deeper way. It's hard to put into words. It's like I can experience subtle joys again. Even the vibrant colors of women's clothing seem more noticeable to me. Remember how Anhedonia makes your life seem like it's in grayscale? I feel like years of porn and porn substitutes turned my brain molten hot, like a nuclear reactor melting down. But now it's slowly cooling off, and I am finding some peace. The stormy waves in my mind have changed into a smooth, still lake. It's an amazing feeling of balance and contentment. I believe that smashing my brain with dopamine junk food was preventing me from finding this place, but this is where I want to stay. Sure, I still think the world has a ton of problems, and I still despair thinking about them, but there's also a unique type of peace in accepting that which you cannot change. Mirror. The person in the mirror can be your best friend or worst enemy. They can block your attempts before you even try. We deserve to be a prisoner, they say. Or they can say, yes, we can, as you start each day. Yes, we deserve to be free. You can go a lot farther in life when the person in the mirror is your friend. Pain. You don't punch yourself. You don't cut yourself. You don't stare at the sun. You also don't have to use porn. That is, unless you want to be setting world records for how long a person can have PIED, which is porn-induced erectile dysfunction, and hypofrontality, aka zombie brain. Those injuries don't heal overnight, guys. P.S. Avoiding pain and physical injury shouldn't be a religious or spiritual battle, or make you feel guilty. It is just rational logic. Pleasure. Quote, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. An orgasm from porn feels good for 10 seconds. Congratulations. It drained happiness and energy from the rest of your life to do that. A porn user, cigarette user, and heroin user have not tricked the universe and discovered a magic source of happiness. They do not have more total happiness in their lives than non-users. This is obvious to any non-user. All a porn user does is train their brain to find pleasure in one specific activity and is unhappy and irritable the rest of the time. Read the cold section to understand the neuroscience. P.S. Your brain gets bored after doing the same thing many times. Porn is not exempt from this rule. Over time, porn or drugs don't provide a high, they remove a low. Which one feels better, the first time or the 1,000th time? Rationalizing. A porn user, cigarette user, and heroin user do not care if there are 99 disadvantages to their addiction, if they think there is one advantage. Here is what to do if your feeling brain, aka limbic brain, tries to scare you with a flimsy argument like, "You've been in recovery for months. Aren't you scared you will forget your favorite scenes?" You don't redirect to the 99 disadvantages of using porn. That only lends validity to the feeling brain's invalid argument, and it feeds on fear. What you do is counter the argument head on. For example, number 1, I can remember things from decades ago. Number 2, masturbation from memory isn't helping my life anyway. Number 3, the stuff I remember isn't helping me with real sex. After you dismantle that argument and prove it has no advantage, the feeling brain can't use it again. The feeling brain always bluffs. Call every bluff. Imagine your limbic brain is a dumb electrical appliance. If you unplug 99 out of 100 power cords, false reasons to use porn, it doesn't know you did that. All it knows is it still has power. You have to unplug every cord, every reason. Then you will find peace like you've never known. Rattle. A death rattle is the gurgling sound that comes right before death, due to being unable to swallow or cough. After quitting porn for a few months, if you feel some subtle urges, imagine that those are the death rattles of dying habits and pathways in your brain. Your brain is saying, use this connection or lose it. The wise choice is to lose it. After time, you will not feel these urges. Your brain will prune unused neural connections, aka habits. Relax. Time is your best friend. Shame. Do you know why there is disgusting porn? Because they got bored of the non-disgusting porn. The higher your feelings of shame, sin, or anxiety, and the more taboo and fetishized the content is, the higher of a dopamine rush you feel. This only increases the strength of the addiction pathway, causing more neurowiring and desensitization. Then you feel more shame and crave a pick-me-up to feel better, and the cycle endlessly repeats. You can't fight an addiction with shame. It just strengthens it. Doing cycles of abstinence, followed by binging, is also very habit-forming due to the intensity of the dopamine. Learn to identify these novelty cravings, aka supernormal dopamine rushes. Choose not to act on them, and give yourself some grace. Neurons will be rewired and resensitized over time to find pleasure in the non-shocking, non-gross, natural highs of real life. Shoes. Imagine someone said they wore shoes all day that were too tight, just so they could experience pleasure when they took them off in the evening. Do you think that makes sense? Of course not. You wouldn't say that tight shoes provide pleasure. But as soon as a porn user finishes a PMO session, their dopamine levels crash lower than a non-user. They feel irritable, similar to if they were wearing tight shoes. They crave another PMO session just to get rid of their hangover stress, which was actually caused by their previous PMO session. Thus, the porn trap is similar to wearing tight shoes, just to obtain the pleasure of taking them off, and doing this over and over again. Porn users, just like all other drug users, are constantly trying to get back to the same level of happiness and relaxation that non-users experience in everyday life. Sleep. A non-user can go to sleep just fine. They aren't up for hours binge searching or staring at artificial light. They actually feel like a normal person and aren't trying to get disgusting thoughts out of their head. They go to bed feeling relaxed, not drained, and can stick to a consistent sleep schedule. They wake up energized because they always get enough sleep. Rhythm is important for optimal health. They lie in bed with a feeling of peace, calm breathing, and heartbeat, and they think about the natural highs of the day, like an afterglow. They think about hopes for tomorrow. They have motivation and focus to plan what they want to do the next day, and subconsciously sleep on those thoughts. Porn does not help you sleep. That is a ridiculous lie. I hope you rediscover what total relaxation and freedom feel like. Slob. After quitting porn, I noticed I was wearing nicer-looking clothes that I hadn't felt like wearing in years when going out in public. It feels good to look good again. This is another natural high that I had lost due to my addiction. The stereotype of a Gooner looking like a slob is true, because dopamine desensitization makes them not care about or spend any time on their appearance. Smoking. Why do some people still smoke cigarettes? Is there any advantage to being a smoker? Do you think smokers are less stressed, less bored, happier, or concentrate better? It's the opposite. Before you laugh too much, how is being a porn user any better than being a cigarette user? One ruins your lungs. The other ruins your brain and your dick. They both work by keeping you on a dopamine treadmill of hits and withdrawals, generating billions of dollars for a few giant companies. Users are pitied, not envied. The way to quit both of them is the same. Understand that the addiction doesn't have a single benefit compared to a non-user. Spicy. A minority of women like extra variety in lovemaking, like masculine domination or sensory play, but there are far better resources than porn to teach you how to do this correctly. There are excellent female sex instructors who can teach you how to do it in a loving way. If your partner doesn't like it, why would you do it? All types of intimate sex require trust, safety, communication, experimentation, and connection. That's what intimacy means. Intimacy includes learning about and knowing your partner at a deep level, how they are unique from any other person on the planet, and focusing on them alone and what they like. Porn causes sexual autism, and your partner can tell you are in a disconnected trance. They will close off from trying or enjoying new things. Substitutes. Models, athletes, video game characters, etc. are merely different colored buttons you press to keep the supernormal dopamine rushes coming to your brain from novelty and Coolidge Effect, and your sexual cravings stuck in the highest gear. They also keep your brain stuck in objectification mode instead of empathy for another person mode. After quitting porn and all substitutes for a few months, your sexual urges and cravings should actually decrease, and you will increase the ability to see women as living beings and feel less awkward around them. Just fap from memory or imagination, and after a few more months, even that urge should lessen. If you stumble on a social media thirst trap, fan service in anime, or a sex scene in a movie, don't despair. The novelty, aka Coolidge Effect, should wear off in a few days. If you fapped to the memory of it, each time will become less pleasurable. Avoiding all sexual content is easier said than done, but don't seek it. Sun. If you stare at the sun for a few seconds, and then go into a dim room, it's hard to see anything at all. A porn addict stares at the sun every time and gets desensitized to the natural highs of life, which have less dopamine. Even eating food can feel less enjoyable. Yep, your sense of taste releases dopamine. Fortunately, when you stop looking at the sun or using porn, you can usually recover. Neither activity is ever recommended for your health. Supernormal. Did you know that female barn swallows will mate with a rejected male if you use a felt tip marker to darken his chest feathers? Did you know that male jewel beetles have sex with a brown beer bottle instead of willing females? Or that male wasps have sex with orchid flowers because they look like female wasps? In the age of Cleopatra, there was eyeliner to make eyes appear bigger, and lipstick and blush to apply reddening. I hope you don't think human brains are very different from those animals. The modern world gives us unprecedented technology, abundance, and population density. We see supernormal hair and beauty products, clothes such as spandex and push-up bras, extra sweet, salty, acidic, caffeinated, or crunchy foods, and limitless entertainment and sexual imagery, even sex dolls and vibrators. There is nothing normal about today's world. Our limbic, aka feeling brains, are all stumbling around. Sometimes you just have to laugh. Time. If you could go back in time, would you vow to never start the cycle of watching porn? Would you encourage your children or friends to use it, or warn them about it? Your time and attention is one of the most generous gifts you can give to another person. Would you rather give that gift to pixels or your family? Imagine you had a tombstone with dates written on it. How much of that time was spent either doing PMO or feeling drained and irritable after PMO? You can't go back in time and undo it, but that doesn't mean you need to be an addict until the day you die. Your chance is now. Spell that backwards, and it's 1. You win your life back and give up nothing. Tricked. Sex has a similar dopamine level as morphine, which is a narcotic drug. It has a higher dopamine level than any other natural activity. Did you know that PMO, porn masturbate orgasm, would be like doing narcotic drugs? Did you know that, like a drug user, you would spend each day on a rubber band of highs and lows? Did you know your brain develops an immunity, tolerance, over time, just like with drugs? Did you know you would be an addict? Did you know you would need a more extreme fix every year that desensitizes you to enjoying real life, or even doing real life? No, you were probably tricked. Porn is simply the button you learned to press to deliver your brain a chemical high. None of us chose to be an addict. Luckily, the more you have used this drug and felt the negative effects, the more joy and relief you will feel when quitting. Truth. Anne Aguirre said, "Once exposed, a secret loses all its power." Telling the truth to someone about all actions in your life, not just porn, is important during recovery because it restores the split between your two brains, thinking and feeling, and lets the thinking brain regain control. It feels so much better when you are back to living one life, not two lives. Cognitive dissonance, which is doing one thing while knowing it is wrong, can feel physically uncomfortable like a headache. Of course, be careful who you tell and when. Just as men and women can be tricked into fapping to pixels, their partner can compare themselves to those pixels and be very hurt. Willpower. Great news! You don't need willpower to permanently quit a porn/dopamine addiction. It's a fallacy to think you need willpower to stop something that has no benefit. People who use willpower only feel stressed, deprived, and tempted, and likely will fail over the long term, because they failed to remove their brainwashing. You only need to see the addiction has 0 advantages. If you don't see it yet, take a break for a few days and read the concepts again. Take notes on everything you agree or disagree with. Indeed, some people experience physical withdrawals for a few weeks, rebalancing the seesaw of pleasure and pain in the brain. Withdrawals are temporary, but seeing the truth is forever, just like when you discover how a magic trick works. The only cage is in your imagination. You can break it and soar. Next steps. Friend, you may feel confused or fearful at this point. This is expected. You are not alone or abnormal. Your voice of truth has just been hibernating for a long time. Important: do not stop your PMO, porn, masturbate, orgasm, usage for the time being if you are currently a user. Keep pressing that button and generating those supernormal chemical rushes in your brain. This will help you see and prove the truth, that it has 0 advantages. It also helps to not have withdrawals while you're learning and memorizing the concepts. But keep reading the previous parts of this book every day. Take notes on what you agree or disagree with. Your PMO usage might slowly decrease as you keep reading. It might take 2 to 3 full readings of the concepts for all the fog to clear in your brain. You could print out the table of contents or copy it into a document and check off which of the 40 concept words you agree or disagree with. You can explore the resources chapter of flyingeaglemethod.org for more detailed explanations and science. Choices. Choice is your greatest power in life. After you have read this book enough times to understand the concepts, you can: Number 1, continue using porn or no change. Number 2, reduce your porn usage or moderation. Number 3, go to the Final Visit chapter, which is optional but many people find helpful, to say goodbye to the trap. Number 4, not use porn again and go straight to the Recovery chapter. Remember, you have these 4 choices available every day of your life. The Final Visit. Have you decided to quit? Only you can make this decision. Nobody else can make it for you. Only you know what gives you the most happiness. If you have any doubts or any doom and gloom, reread this book or get your full $0 refund. Maybe counseling, prayer, support groups, doing more activities, removing devices, or rehab would work better for you. Have the wings in your mind finally opened? The truth is that you can be free if you get it by now. Trust me, friend, and join me on the other side. The sun is shining, and the eagles are soaring. We're waiting for you, and we love you. You don't belong in this place. Number 1, you made it this far in the book because you want to escape. So make that decision now, that this will be the last visit. This time, you understand you aren't giving anything up. You're getting back your life. Number 2, Browse the pictures and videos on your favorite site consciously, looking at their desperate attempts to create novelty, shock, and supernormal stimulus. And ask yourself, was I using this site, or was it using me? How is this helping my life? Number 3. When you finally close the browser, do so with a feeling of freedom, like, this is great, I'm free. I'm no longer an addict, aka slave, to porn or screens. I don't have to be controlled by these sites, aka traps, ever again. Congratulations, you are now a free non-user. Remember this moment. Recovery, brown belt level. The brown belt level of recovery is achieved by quitting porn use. For a few weeks, you might feel withdrawals as the seesaw in your brain is rebalancing. It just lost a lot of weight on the pleasure side. This is a good thing because you will eventually become more sensitive to the natural highs of real life. Number 1. Give yourself plenty of put-ups. A put-up is a positive affirmation, the opposite of a put-down, and is a great habit to do on yourself and others. Think about how great your freedom will be. A positive mindset should help lessen or eliminate any withdrawals. Yep, that's science too. Number 2. Quitting may make you feel very happy or euphoric and want to fap. Do it from memory, imagination, or feeling, and you will settle down eventually, as long as you aren't using substitutes. Number 3. You still have some battles to fight until your wings get stronger. Pay attention to habit, HALTS, Rattle, Rationalizing, Truth, and Flatline. Number 4. Every day, take time to be still and do nothing. No screens. You are used to instant dopamine hits. That needs to stop. Take long mental resets every day and get better at it. Number 5. Keep a journal of all the changes you feel, month after month. This will be your story and motivation for the future. Black belt level. The black belt level of recovery is achieved by completely knocking out the fake dopamine seesaw in your mind and taking control over it. I got my black belt at age 43, and I hope you get yours sooner than I did. As mentioned in the fantasy section, dopamine is driven simply by thoughts, particularly anticipation of pleasure, pain, or stress. For at least 1 week, do this. No porn. It might help if you have already done this for at least 90 days. No fapping, unless your body is uncomfortable. No fantasizing about sex or lusting. You can have sex, just don't fantasize about it beforehand. No anticipating future pleasure or pain. For example, how many likes or dislikes a post will get, or how fun or stressful a social event will be. You are on the right track when you start noticing how tense and tight your brain feels when you start anticipating pleasure or pain. When you catch yourself dwelling on such a thought, stop the thought and you will feel calmer. The goal is to unlock a new state of mind called no mind, or mushin in Japanese. It is about living only in the present and not being a slave to any emotional desire. It is extremely hard to explain in writing. It is something you have to experience for yourself. But once you unlock this state of mind, you can always get into it easily, and your life will not be the same. Basically, it feels like this other video I made. Good luck, and please leave a comment or email me when you get your black belt. Parting words. As each month passes, you will feel even better until you are bursting with joy. Use that newfound energy to bring restoration to people your addiction hurt. Don't just put your new energy into a different addiction, like video games or social media. You may feel a little fearful and uncertain as you venture into your new freedom. Time is your best friend. This will pass. You will now wonder why so many people are still caught in this trap, and pity them, especially the children who were never warned about it or protected from it. Good luck. Live smart. Live free.